Yo, what's good, demons? Welcome to a little deck profile that I want to do. On stream, I have on twitch.tv/sfrttv. I've been playing Swordsoul a lot at this starting DESPIA format, since I think it's a really sick pick, since it has an okay matchup and you have a lot of space for NonEngine. And working on the list has helped a lot. Testing against good players that play DESPIA has been a help. For example, against Raphael, it made me make some changes. But this deck has a lot of space in the extra deck and a lot of space in the main deck that you can fill with just the engine hate to counter Despia and still have a good matchup against other decks. You will have a bit of a tougher time against like going first, Synchro, Tenyi, the Prankits, Brave, all those kinds of decks. But you fill that with the non-engine, since you can still just play a lot of hand traps. The only thing that I think I play differently is like I got Ogre now for this format, since it just hits the Brave cards and Swordsoul cards, I guess, but I'm not expecting Swordsoul mirrors if I'm gonna be honest. But yeah, let's just get into the profile real quick, since it's gonna be a bit of a quickie. So for Swordsoul cards, the ratio that has been shown at, I think it was in Charlotte as well. These are like the Swordsoul cards you play in main. So it's triple Emergence, triple Moye, which are like the standard normals. And Emergence, of course, the Rhoda for the deck. Then I'm on 2 Ecclesia and 1 Taya at this point. 1 Taya is not really a big problem. You can just recycle it most of the time, like banish it for Shishao negates, and adding it back with Adhara comes up a couple of times. And it's most often there for follow-up play or any turn 3 push. You don't really use it turn 1, you tend not to use to. And Ecclesia is at 2 right now because it's just mainly used as a 4th and 5th Moye. Like, you never really want to open hands that include like multiples of Moye and Ecclesia together, since they basically just do the same thing. And Ecclesia's like, you most often then just keep this in hand, and you never really want to see multiples, and it's just like to add to your normal summon count. So with these 6 monsters, you're playing 6 normals, which is quite on the heavy side, but I don't feel like you ever want to cut Ecclesia to 1. But putting it to 3 again, it just, with the purpose it fills of like being the 4th and 5th Moye, it just doesn't seem worth, because you never really want to see multiple Moyes. So yeah, that is something that I consider playing. So 2 Ecclesias to make more space for hand traps and non-engine. 1 Taya as well, the others never come up, and that's still triple long one, since the card is absolutely busted. Always want to see this card in your opening hand alongside Moye, or even, yeah, if you only have the long one play, it's kind of cringe, since you cannot really do much. Just make it a Synchro 10. Sometimes if you open this with Ashuna next to it, you can do some Synchro 8 plays and keep the long one on the field. That comes up sometimes. But yeah, the final Swordsoul card is 1 blackout. I don't feel you never need more than 1. I banish it most of the time. I never really use the effect, since most decks at this point can play around it. But having 1 in your deck comes up quite often. Now for the Tenyi cards, I'm on triple Heavenly Dragon Circle as like a pseudo Swordsoul card, I guess. It's a card that dodges the most important hands of this format, which are going to be Imperm and Failure for the Despia matchup. So those cards are going to be in main decks again. Some people are still on Ogre, and this card can also make you still go plus off an Ogre on your normal summon. But most of all, it's also a cool way to dodge Droplet sometimes. Or at least go plus if you're getting Dropleted. Like you can still, like, let's say they Droplet, discard a spell, or a trap, sorry, to play around your Blackout. You can still like change Circle, chain Blackout in some scenarios to at least do something in that sense. Same goes for Shishao. Like if they do Droplet early, discarding monsters, and they have something on the field that you might want to negate, there are lines where you can do like Circle, get a search, then chain the Shishao to negate something on the field. So I think Circle has a lot of implications. And yeah, the most often used effect is of course the Call by the Grave effect, the normal summon Moye effect, Failure, chain Circle, dodge the Failure, go off. So yeah, this card is, I'm a huge fan. Then I'm on triple Ashuna, triple Vishuddha, double Adhara, 1 Shatana. So I used to play 2 fish, but in testing it was like I was playing triple Ogre, of course. And I cut the Ogres now, so then on 38 cards in my deck, I put in a 3rd Failure and a 3rd Vishuddha, since Vishuddha itself deals with most of the branded board. Like it at least triggers the level 10 dude, the Mirror Jet I think it's called. Since you most often know where the branded is set, so you can just pressure it instantly with the Vishuddha, so they have to banish it. So opening Vishuddha is always the play you want to do. And since I'm not playing Helk, I don't need triple Adhara since I don't need to have a tuner. That's also why I'm not playing Vessel. Since this is most often used when you're playing the Helk variant, it's like you just do your standard line, you keep the Adhara in your hand, or your Vessel in your hand, and then once you get Nibiru, you can use Vessel or Adhara to make Helk, and then still like summon the Taya. But I felt like with Nibiru coming out of the format, there isn't really much necessity to play Vessel and more Adhara, and I also have now the option to cut Deskbot and have more space in my extra deck. The only thing that like it's either Vessel or Circle for me, and Circle is just better this format in my opinion since Veiler and Imperm are back. So yeah, I feel like that's the wave. It also like I said before, one fish shootout pressures the Mirror Jade to activate their effect. And once they do that, you can just Circle, get rid of your monster. Since like if you let's say you open these two, you can just pressure the field with Fishuda, then Circle away whenever they do Mirror Jade. Go +1, they Mirror Jade something away on their own field now because they don't have anything else, and then you just have to play through a Branded, which is a Chimera, which isn't that big of a deal. So yeah, Fishuda is insanely good to open going second. Also just a worm to open going first. So I feel like opening Fish is not really that big of a deal. And it's just a very, very good card. It's probably the best thing in the game. So that's it for the worms. Then we're going to blind second, or like going second cards, the non-engine. It's triple Ash. Really strong right now to negate the fusion card that DESPIA has. Triple Ghost Bell. This can negate Branded in red. Is also very good versus Prankits, so it fills two purposes in that sense. It is the weakest hand trap of them all, I think. It does come up sometimes against DPE, but DPE also loses a little bit of popularity right now with Branded coming out, since it just doesn't do enough. It can also negate Enchantress, so it has its implications. But yeah, it's the weakest of the hand traps I play, I think. It's just very strong to negate Branded in red if you go second versus DESPIA. Then we have triple Veiler and triple Imperm. These most often negate the Loop Lion, Lubellion, I don't know what the fuck it's called. They also are strong in the mirror match. They are also strong against non-engine, or like if you open multiples, you can just like negate Griffin going second with Imperm. Imperm is a good top deck. Veiler's level 1. They're just in general very good cards to open most of the time. Like even if you don't have to use them, you can still just normal the Veiler with a level 7 Tenyi, you go into Shisha. Like those plays come up very often, and Imperm just to bait out something. Opening Imperm with the final card in the deck, which is Forbidden Droplet, is insanely strong, since you just negate something and then Forbidden Droplet the rest to get 2 negates of 2 cards, which is what you need, just quick 1-for-1s. But Droplet also has the implication of like being insane versus the DESPIA deck, since you can just chain it to the Chimera, or against the Mirror Jade. You do need to time it right though, which is sometimes a problem. But I feel like this is the ratio, the 15 going second cards that every deck needs to try to fit in their deck, at least at this point. Since it is just the best ratio against the DESPIA decks and against the meta in some point. Like if you count Prankits, I guess. That's for the main. It's a clean 40 at this point. I don't want to go over that, since I think the consistency is perfect like this. And you need to see your Swordsoul engine, and you kind of want to see your Tenyis, you know? Also going second, the Tenyis just put in so much work. So alongside the 15 non-engine cards, having the Tenyis and like a long one just beats a field most of the time. And then you can set up for next turn. So for the extra, I run triple Monk and a Shaman. The triple Monk is super unnecessary, but there are scenarios where it comes up, and I would rather have it than don't have it, since it's very strong like a turn 3, that you can still just get a Fishuda back, especially with Circle, since you get way more Tenyis that way. Getting a Fishuda back, then like still being able to make the Monk instead of needing to make the Shaman and then not having a level or non-effect monster on the field. That would be a tough one, since you cannot link away Shaman into the Monk. That would be something that would be cool if that would be possible. But just having the non-effect monsters you can basically always make is just insanely sick. So I think 3 Monk should be standard at this point if you're not playing Helk, because I think that's one of the cards that you have to take out if you're playing Helk. Then for the Swordsoul dudes, double Shishao, one of the long one dude and one of the Shengying. This card is absolutely bonkers. I never make Fleur anymore turn 1, as at least game 1, since Nibiru should not be in main decks. So turn 1 you just go Pot of Greed, Shishao, and then this card deals with the whole Brave engine itself. So against like DESPIA, if they have the Brave engine in their deck, which most good lists have, this just deals with the Brave cards. And then you can have the Shisha for the Aliber, and you have the rest of your hand traps for like the fusion cards and stuff like that. Shengying is absolutely busted going second, like deals with, again with DESPIA, like you can just make this going second, banish their Tragedy from grave, and banish something from the field. Maybe even like their cards always search in the end phase, so if you banish them from the grave, some trigger in like the main phase when they're sent, and some trigger in the end phase. Like you can get rid of them and like dodge them, which can come up quite often. So I feel like you have to play both of these, and the double Xiao just comes up as well a lot. Then for the Yang Zings, I'm on one Yazi, double Bex, and the Xiaofeng. Xiaofeng doesn't really come up anymore. Like I said before, Nibiru should be out of the format. This is something I mostly make turn 2 or game 2 or game 3. It's sick to search hand traps, and it has a good effect versus certain decks. Like for example, if you're playing against Eldritch, putting this on the field like at least protects you from Lord effect in hand. Also, like, there are still some Drytron players. This just insta wins against Drytron. And there's a couple of decks like that. They're just very light focused and making Xiaofeng just wins you the game like there. Double Baxia, since the effect is insanely broken against control decks, and Yasi is obvious, I think. Then for the final cards, of course the Baronated Fleur. Going second and going first, you can often make a game 3. But again, I most often just make long 1 on my turn 1. This just comes up turn 3. Like you just make the Fleur pop something and then go for game and with a negate on the field. Draco Berserker. This card is insanely good right now. It's also an option to play through Gamma sometimes, since Gamma is in the DESPIA deck again. And it becomes huge. Like you can just use this, clear the field, it becomes fucking huge. A hard problem to out it. It's just a very good generic card to have in your deck. And then the final card that I played this format is Crimson Blader. Might be a weird one, but it's insanely strong in the mirror match and versus Despia as well. It's just awkward sometimes that you're locked into Worms with the Arshuna. So you try to make this early, try to bait some negates. If it resolves, you basically win the game in the mirror or versus Despia. It also has some appliances versus the Flunder matchup. Since, yeah, they cannot summon their Empen or any of their high level monsters. So this is something that I've been testing. It's been good. I could have won a game with this at locals last week, and I forgot I played it, so that was sad. Since I haven't played it ever. But yeah, the card is sick in theory, and I think it would come up a couple of times. Like in like certain game states, you just attack something with this, and you basically buy a turn, and then next turn you can go off again. So yeah, that's for the extra. And then finally the side. The side is very up to you, of course, and up to your like the meta you want to beat. So for me, it's Draw and Lockbird, since I want to beat Flunder. This can also come in versus Despia, but they can play around it with the draw phase. I don't know what the cards are called, but it's like the summon from deck. So you can search in the draw phase with Eliber, and then Draw doesn't do anything. So I don't think this will ever come in against the Despia deck, but it's very strong versus Flunder, so that's why it's in there. Then 2 Crow. This is there for the Despia deck, since just crowing their branded target makes it not resolve. So it's like a pseudo extra Bell or Call By, which is sick because they are now playing the branded Lost, I think it's called, which dodges Bell, since like it's like a magical meltdown for the fusion spells. So crowing their target then still doesn't make it resolve because this doesn't do anything on the activation. So Crow always comes in when you're playing Despia. It's also very strong versus Striker, Eldritch, Deskbot decks. It just has a lot of applications. Then Gamma, the strongest hand trap in the game. Also versus Despia, very strong. Just get rid of their Eliber, make it go to grave. Which is it's very important with Chimera sometimes. And in general, Gamma, since some of your starters, or a lot of your starters at least, are like your Emergence, or Ecclesia, your long ones, your Tenyis, you play circles so you can dodge stuff. So you can like basically make the field that way that you have no monster on the field but still go plus a lot. And in that sense, the Gamma really comes up a lot. So this is basically a must for signing, in my opinion. Then the final 6 cards are Triple Twin Twister as some sort of back row removal that doesn't play into Lancia for this deck, since this deck hard loses to Lancia. And it's like, again, a quick play spell, so you can play it against Prankits and the Flunder matchup to dodge their traps or Pandemonium. It's also good to play against the Despia deck, since you can just do this in the draw phase, make them use their Brandon Red, then you have to beat a Masquerade and 1 Banish, which is fine. You can basically play through that with your hand at that point. So just baiting out all their shit that they have, or at least making them use it early. That's where Twin Twister comes in. And there's like pseudo applications against Eldritch, of course. Final card for this format is Triple D-Barrier. Nuts. This card called Fusion, you win the game. This is a card that I have been considering playing the Destiny Hero engine in my deck for. Since if you get D-Barriered, you're playing a Synchro deck, so you're just playing pure Tenyi at that point. So it's very awkward. So I have tested like the the Destiny heroes. So if you get deburied, you can still make a Verte and still like make a fusion monster. But that was kind of bad, since you needed to either like open a lot of Tenyis or Ecclesia. Since Monk is not an effect monster, you can't go into Verte that way. Though it's something that I've been testing. It's been a bit awkward though, so I just, if they have it, they have it. There's something that I might want to do is side a red reboot. Like instead of one of the Drolls maybe, or one of the Crows, I don't know, I have to think about it. So we can always at least side in red reboot going second. So we don't lose the debarrier, like 5% of the games, I guess. But yeah, that's it for the profile. I've played this at, or not this exact list, but a list with Ogre in main at locals this week, and Tetsun played the exact same list. He won the locals. He lost to me, but I gave him the win so he could win the locals, so it was kind of cool. So he won with the list. I lost to a mirror match where I got Scythe locked a couple of times since he played the artifact package, and I opened a bunch of I think I opened 5 normal summons game 3 when I made him go first. So it was a bit awkward. I opened like Ecclesia, Moye, Taya, and then I drew like a droplet. So it was winnable. Since I could have gone for Crimson Blader, that was a game that I forgot I played Crimson Blader. But yes, shit happens sometimes. It was not the first game of the day. We go next, it's all fine. Dead Jam times 7, sheesh. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe. We need to hit 500 subs. And yeah, follow my YouTube and my Twitch. We're closing in on 1200. Need to do a 24-hour stream soon. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and have a nice day. Peace.